Hello and welcome to our Ludicrous Future podcast. This is episode 5, I believe.
That's right.
This is the podcast where we talk about all the future technologies that are changing our world and creating a ludicrous future for us all to live in sometime in the future. I'm good at this. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers with Joe YouTube channel, and with me is
Ben Sullins of Teslanomics.
And that's it.
That's it.
We have no Tim today. We are Timless.
No Tim today. Where is Tim? We need like a puppet for him so he can explain stuff to us.
A little puppet in a rocket outfit or spacesuit.
Spacesuit, yeah, a little spaceman.
Yeah,
we could do that. I'm sure we could find one of those somewhere.
Now Tim is in New Zealand.
Doing space stuff or doing Hobbit stuff.
He's the first Hobbit in space. Actually, I don't know if he hasn't really said if it's Rocket Lab or what it is that he's doing down there, unless he told you and he didn't tell me, which in case I'm mad at him.
Be mad at him. But I think, yeah, any of us would take any opportunity to go to New Zealand for a work trip. So we miss you, Tim, and we will see you soon.
And you are actually not in your normal spot. You're in a hotel room in LA.
Correct. Here at Vid Summit 2018, learning about the YouTubes and the interwebs and the things.
Learning and speaking.
It's been fun. And speaking about winning the Tesla Roadsters. I always say winning, but it's an affiliate program, so earning the Tesla Roadsters. And it's funny because, the way that works generally is through email lists, and a vast majority of people on YouTube don't ever go that route. They don't build a website. Yeah. They don't have an email list. They just rely on YouTube for everything. And so I'm trying to break people out of that shell a little bit.
I need to be a lot better about that. I've got an Answers with Joe email list that I basically set up through one of the giveaways I did way back when I thought that was a good thing to do. And I've got like 500 people on there, but I never put anything out there. I need to automate it or something so that like every video gets sent out so that people know about it. I've been pretty bad about it. You're Mr. Automation. You need to teach me that.
Well, and that's exactly what my talk is about, is automation, because essentially, everybody that's on my list, which isn't a huge amount of people, but everyone that's there gets every video that I produce. And so for a lot of people, YouTube, you can't rely on it to actually show you the video. And so this is a way that they're going to be guaranteed to get that. Sometimes it'll get trapped in spam filters or whatever, that kind of thing, with me and my clickbaity headlines. But, it's one of those things where you can just have a more solid connection with your audience. So, that's kind of the pitch behind it. And yeah, so yes, you need to do that. And I will gladly show you how.
Have you given your talk yet?
No, it's later today at 1:30.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, Tim goes off to New Zealand, you're giving a talk and you're like, I'm going to do this anyway.
I think the challenge was the time difference. Because what time is it in New Zealand right now? It's like tonight or tomorrow. Yeah.
I just figured this is a good opportunity for us to talk smack about Tim while he's not around.
That's very true. That's very true.
No, so my big thing about the email list, I need to be using it for like marketing purposes and whatnot, but I'm also paying for it. Like I pay a monthly fee to MailChimp.
For 500 people?
Well, so that's my Answers with Joe list. I've also got Canker Boy lists, so there's like many more on top of that. But the basic idea is I'm paying for something and I'm not using it, so I need to be better about that.
Get on that. I mean, and there are numerous things I'm sure that fall into that category for all of us. Things that you're like, wait, I'm still paying for that. Like I had a thing called Animoto, which is pretty cool. It does these like animated kind of Instagram posts and stuff, and I would do them because it'd be like, Tesla would release some number and I would want to like share that, but it'd be cool because you could like throw images and then have text fly on the screen. It was like very templatized and easy to create, but still really, really fun. I think it's like $30 a month. I've done 2. I've used it twice just because it's like you have so many things, you don't have time to do everything. But I did just discover Instagram's Q&A feature, which I'm super stoked on. So I'll probably be doing more. Like you do an Instagram story, you say, hey, ask me, questions about X. And then people hit a button that says respond, and then they ask it. And in Instagram, it logs it. And then you can actually share that response in a new story. It's just a pretty cool, like really engaging thing. Like I'm completely novice at Instagram, but the more and more I do it, the more and more I like just how engaging it is. So it's Pretty cool.
Yeah, I've really struggled to build an audience there, but the audience that I have are really engaged. Like whenever I post something, I get so many likes and comments and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
surprising.
It's not exactly like your YouTube content doesn't translate over directly,
Yeah.
right? Like my Instagram is all just pictures of cool Teslas. And so it does well because that's like what Instagram is for, you know?
Yeah.
But no, no, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I need to get out of the habit of only posting my thumbnails for my video. Like if you look at my Instagram, it's like 90% just thumbnails or pictures of my dog,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Well,
I
see,
actually created her own account. So
there you go.
yeah,
No, it's a whole different every medium I think or every platform has its own thing that it wants you to do. And so if you do the thing it wants, it'll do well. If you just try to regurgitate the same stuff you did somewhere else, I don't think it generally
yeah,
doesn't do as well. So,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Well, so I thought you could take a minute and talk about some really cool thing that happened on your car.
Yeah, yeah. So just before coming up to LA, I got the update to version 9 in my Model 3, and
Nice.
it's awesome. Do you want to pull up the list
Yep.
of features here, and I can just kind of give you my thoughts on it? I'm doing a video on it. I actually interviewed a friend of mine um, that's had it for a week or so, and I'm jealous about that. But so it's really cool because he's brand new to Tesla. He's only had his car for like 3 weeks, and we went back and forth and talked about it. So I'm posting a video later, kind of deeper
Mhm.
dive. But yeah, so looking at the list here, and if you're following us on YouTube, you can see there's a Tesla page with a list of all the features. So I'm talking about the Model 3 version 9. The navigation is far better now. The actual list of turn by turn directions are on the left side of the screen.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Um, and it does a really great job of just showing you the next two turns and then your overall like travel time. So in the Model S and X, you have you have these like super portrait mode screens that are really long.
Mhm.
And so, you could list like every single turn. Sometimes it's like big giant stream of directions. But on the Model 3, the screen is more kind of 3:2 aspect ratio. It's like tiny, so you don't have this big long area to do that in. So they've been able to kind of set it to where it's on the left side. You can easily find it your next turn and then the next one after that. So if it's like, hey, I'm going left, but then I need to go right.
Yeah.
You can see those two things right next to each other, and then it hides the rest of them. So it's amazing just how like a small change like that makes actually a really big difference when it comes to comes to your driving experience. So I'm
Yeah.
stoked on that part.
Cool.
Um,
Is that your favorite part of it?
that's one that's I'm gonna notice probably the most.
Mm.
It's one of those things where it's small, but you when you use it nonstop, you'll notice it a lot. And then the next feature that falls in the same category would be the calendar.
Oh yeah.
And I love the calendar because I love the idea of my car kind of not just being this lifeless thing, but something that kind of knows me or is kind of an assistant.
Mhm.
So it's really beautiful. Like,
It's a
and,
smart
and,
car.
and if yeah, exactly. And if people, go to work on a regular basis and they don't work from home in front of behind a camera like us, but they go in and have meetings in like a normal regular schedule,
Right.
it's beautiful because you get in your car in the morning. The first thing that pops up is your calendar. Here's what your day looks like. If there's an appointment on there, let's say you're having coffee with someone or whatever, that's not, the place that you're already pre-programmed to go to. You click on it, and if it has an address, it will navigate you directly to it. So the car becomes more of like I almost wanted to like you walk in like, hi Ben, here's your calendar for the day. Would you like me to navigate to your first appointment?
Right. And
It's
coffee
kind of like
just
gives you
pours
that.
into a cup.
Yeah, yeah, like the espresso just pops out of the thing. You're like, like beautiful, right? And one day we'll get there, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're going. So that's probably the next best feature, or the next feature that, again, it's a small thing, but when you use it on a daily basis, it makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
especially me coming from the Model S, where I've had it for 2 years, and then going into 3 not having it, it's like you really notice that you missed it. Um, One thing that doesn't I wasn't able to figure out in terms of the navigation that I do want is the HOV lane preference. So in
Mhm.
California, is this same in Texas? Are you allowed to drive in the HOV lane in an electric car?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So we have a thing called the Clean Air Vehicle Program
Mhm.
here in California, and so this is one of the incentives. And so if you have a zero emission vehicle, you get these stickers so you can drive in the HOV lane. And that's great, especially in California where we have just gobs of traffic. And one of the really interesting ways this plays out, especially in Los Angeles, is there, like, if you have HOV lane access, the route you take from point A to point B may be completely different than if you don't have HOV lane access, because some of the lanes go HOV lane, exit to HOV lane. So you never have to leave the HOV lane. You stay in it the whole time.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that, then the route you may take could be completely different. And so Waze has this built in, where with Waze, you can set that as a preference and it will navigate you using that logic. Now, the feature, it's listed, but it's not enabled, or you can't find it anywhere in my Model 3 yet. That is a new feature that it's going to have. So I'm super looking forward to that, especially when I'm coming to LA, which I do, pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm. So on this application launcher, it has a browser now, yeah?
It does, yeah. And the browser in the Model 3, so this is another new feature. Most people might not use that very much. A good thing I would use it for is if I'm like driving by. I live by a football stadium, and there's always events going on there, and so I could like bookmark that site so I can see what event is going on just as I'm driving by. So those are kind of nice. Also, if you're just like sitting there charging, you can pull up something. The big thing I think a lot of people are curious about, and I haven't tested it yet, is if you can like play Spotify through the browser, or use one of these other like web, like Pandora or something like that. In previous versions, you could not, because the browser did not have a interface to the stereo, the audio system.
Oh.
So no matter what website you went to, it didn't have the ability. Yeah, I don't know why they have this really weird stripped down browser. I don't know why they did it. And then all the traffic, as I understand it, is actually routed through Tesla. So when you pull up a web page, it actually sends that request to Tesla, like their servers. They go get the website, and then they send it back to you.
Uh-huh.
That's what someone told me. I don't know if that's true. We could probably test that. But in any event, that's something I want to test and see if that, because if you can, that's super cool. If you could actually play Spotify or something there.
Yeah.
But the other awesome feature about the browser is it gives us, me and my friends that have that app, Teslab, an interface into the car. So we, for the Model S and X, built a custom interface, like a custom dashboard that has a Doppler radar. It does have Waze. It has all these other different like stats and features and stuff. And so we built that for the Model S and X. And now, and for some people, especially if you live somewhere that has weather, a Doppler radar is like a super useful feature. Like, I'm going to go this way because the rain is over there, and I don't want to go this way. But in San Diego, we don't use it. So in any event, we couldn't do that for the Model 3 because it didn't have a browser. Now it does, and so that will be coming very soon. So now, Tesla doesn't officially support third-party apps yet. They haven't like opened up their app store. But this is kind of a way to hack it into that, right? So you have your phone, which reads data from the car, and then we have a browser, which is like your interface to the app. So we're piecemealing it together. But yeah, I think that's going to open up the door to some really cool things.
I think it's really funny when you talk about the browser having to kind of go through Tesla servers and stuff. It sounds so archaic, but just 5 years ago, that was groundbreaking. Like, to have a browser in your car, that was insane.
Yeah. It still kind of sucks. It's like this is what, from a technical standpoint, I don't know why they didn't just take Firefox, which is open source, and like modify it to fit their car or do the things they wanted to do. I don't even know what the browser is, what the actual core of the browser is, but it like doesn't work hardly on any website. Like, things just don't work in it. So I know they did revamp it. Like, pages won't load, like certain scripts and things. Like, it's just weird. I don't know why. Maybe they're worried about a malicious attack into the vehicle, which certainly is something to be worried about. But again, that's probably why the browser doesn't have access to the stereo system or any of the other parts of the car. So it could never do those things, right? It could crash the browser, but who cares, right? You can still drive your car. So yeah, it's probably a tough thing from a security and safety standpoint. That's probably where the challenge is, I would guess, because the software is literally, you could go download Firefox, the open source version right now, reskin it as your Tesla browser, and boom, you have a full feature rich, browser. So making a browser is a trivial feat in today's world. So
I'm
yeah,
sure they
but we'll
usually have
see.
their reasons for these things, but it just kind of feels like Tesla always has to reinvent the wheel with everything they do.
Yeah, yes and no, right? Because still, the majority of the parts in the car are made by Bosch, right? Like all the like turn signals and all
Mm.
those kind of things. Like they don't make any of that stuff. So they're not reinventing the wheel everywhere. Excuse
Bless you.
me.
He's allergic to Los Angeles. Well, so
That
I
is
don't have version 9 yet. I got the fake out last week when I got an update, and it was like for the one before that. But
36.2.
yeah, I do have some news though about my car.
Okay, hit me
I
with it.
let me get off the share screen here. I got a new plug put in my garage. I got a 1450 240 volt. Just did that yesterday.
Nice.
So I can charge my car overnight instead of taking 3 days.
And you
That's
can
good.
officially be an Uber driver now because you have a place to charge your high power vehicle, right?
Right.
How much did that cost you? Was it a lot?
400.
Oh, dude, that's so good.
Yeah.
Now, did you have to run a new circuit or any of those kind of things? Like, how involved was
Luckily it wasn't very involved at all. I had well, I say that. I don't really know how the whole thing works, but
it?
um
It was
no,
$400 involved. Like,
yeah,
that's
well the breaker box was literally like 4 feet away from the charge port
right.
on the car. So it was like right there. So all he had to do was just install it right below it. He didn't have to run it across the garage or anything.
Yeah.
So that was good.
And how old's your home?
Well, it's been upgraded several times throughout the years, but 1963 is when it was built.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's like mine. I think mine's a 59.
Mm.
At mine, it would cost $1,800,
Wow.
and they had to run it 90 feet and install a new circuit.
Yeah.
And so that was $1,200 in materials alone. And then, an electrician for an entire day
Yeah.
with an assistant. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty pricey, but I mean, obviously for us, we have 2 electric cars, like you have to
Yeah.
have it at that point. So now,
Do you
have you
have
paid
the
attention to your,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say, have you paid attention to your electric bill yet, or
I mean, I've been
you haven't
watching
got
it,
that far?
but it's kind of a weird time right now because just as the things got hot over the summer, I got all the windows replaced because they still
Hmm.
had the original like single pane windows from 1963,
Oh
and
man.
like I had an inspector come in and look, and he was like, basically, your house has a like a 10-foot hole in it. Like that's how much air is escaping through your windows. Big, huge cracks in the corners and stuff. Anyway, so I got those replaced around April, and then of course, like right after that, all the heat happened, and it's been 100 degrees ever since. And so I've been keeping an eye on the electricity anyway, just to see how much that would help. I mean, I also did some other things. I got the attic re-insulated, radiant
Yeah.
barrier, and all that. I got a new smart thermostat, so I've been keeping an eye on it anyway. So of course now that the temperatures are finally starting to go down, I've got this car that I'm trying that I'm plugging in. So it's like I can't tell what's causing what. I can say
Yeah.
that my September bill was, or the amount of usage in September was down like 300 kilowatts or something from the year before. So
Mm,
that's good.
yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be so. You probably scheduled the charging to be. Do you have time of use rating out there, where at a certain time of day the rate changes to be lower?
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
You might want to, and yeah, I mean, who knows? But you might want to check with your power company, because a lot of places do this, but out here in California, it's like super critical. So if you get an electric vehicle in California, most of the power companies have special rates that they give you, where the during the day rates are actually higher than normal, but then the what they call super off peak from like
Mhm.
12 a.m. to 5 a.m. is like less than half of what the normal rate would be during that
Okay.
time. So they charge it, they jack it up on one end, but then they like significantly lower it when you're going to be consuming, just gobs of energy. So
Mhm.
yeah, check that out, because I think that's something that's could help you. And then that's also where, like, when I first started analyzing, so I don't know of a true way without like a voltmeter or something plugged into where you plug your car into. I don't know of any way to actually figure out how much energy your car consumes,
Mm.
other than just, hey, it is basically it accounts for at least 95% of energy between 12 and 5 a.m. Right? Because what else do you have going on then? Maybe a refrigerator running, maybe a dishwasher or something like that. But you're not like, you don't have the TVs going and the AC and 10 other things. So it's like, yeah, you can pretty much chalk it up all to the electric car during that time, or that's what I did.
Mhm.
Um, and it's pretty interesting because my bill went up by about 60 or $70 that first month after I first got it, which I thought, holy crap. But then that's when I went back and looked and said, oh, well, I would have spent $150 in gas. So yeah,
Okay.
it was like,
Well,
it felt weird, but then when you looked at the numbers, it made sense.
now that I've got the ability to charge it relatively quickly, I was gonna not let it completely run out, but I've never let the car go down below 150 so far. So I'm gonna let it go down and just kind of see how long I can drive it between charges. I mean, working from home,
Yeah.
I really don't drive that much, and I didn't drive that much before, so my gas bill, like the cost of gasoline that I was spending before, was not a major factor in my buying the car because I wasn't really spending that much anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but
Makes
I'm
sense.
just gonna keep an eye on it and see what it comes out to.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common thing. I don't think people realize, like, this is part of and maybe this is a tangent, but still related. Like, I just saw some article talking about how it was on NPR, like, the electric vehicle charging infrastructure is not here yet, and that's really hurting the ability for electric vehicle adoption and stuff. And it's just absurd to me because, yeah,
Mm.
like with a car that goes 300 miles on a charge, and lots of people in a situation where their commute is maybe 8 to 10 miles, you can easily go a full week without even having to charge at all. And then on top of it, you could plug into a just regular wall outlet and get all of that range back if you're not driving a ton every day. So then, if you are driving a lot every day, you get a NEMA 1450 installed, and you pay $400 or however much it costs. And then, Bob's your uncle. You're done. It works
Mm.
99% of the time. The only time the vehicle charging infrastructure, the charge stations, matter is if you're doing a road trip, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of like, and even ChargePoint recently we said that they're going to have 2.5 million charging stations within the next by 2025 or something like that. And I'm looking at it going, why? We don't necessarily need that, because in 2025 I would, conservative estimates will put you at about 450 miles of range on an electric car. I don't necessarily, like, unless I'm really going on a long, and then their chargers are the slow ones, so I'm really not going to be using
Mm.
that much. So I guess the people that would be interested are ones that live in places where they can't install something, or that they literally don't have access to an outlet somewhere where they park. So condos, apartments,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah,
that.
that
But
was that was gonna be my counter argument to that.
yeah,
Because I mean, if you live in an apartment and you don't work at a place where there's a charge port, like, you are kind of, it's not really a good situation for you to be having an electric car.
yeah, that's true. And that's, but it, in the overall market of people that drive cars, I would say that that 2.5 million stalls are not necessarily, like, I just don't see them being that used, right? I think it's like
Mm.
maybe an overshot by them, but yeah, it's one of those things where the majority of people are not gonna need that or use it. So, and then I think as we see vehicle adoption grow, condos and apartments and stuff will start to do it, right? Like, I have friends now. Yeah, I mean, some folks, like my friends in Brooklyn, they don't even have a garage, right? They own their place, but there's no
Yeah.
such thing as a garage. But what they'll often do is that they will pay to park at a garage that has chargers. So they'll go do that for a day, fill up, while they're at work, go back and get their car, and they're good for a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, like, the infrastructure demands are not nearly as like they're like the demand for infrastructure is, like, way overstated compared to, I think, what is really needed.
Yeah.
Because yeah, everyone, or not everyone, but a ton of people already have the infrastructure in their homes, right? Compared to like a hydrogen car where, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have a way to fill that up.
There's a place 500 miles from here where you can go get some hydrogen.
Yeah.
I would like to see every office building, every parking garage, every mall or restaurant,
Right.
kind of area to have some kind of charging set up because uh, I hate the idea that electric cars are only something that people in certain social economic strata can manage. And I mean, there's obviously the price of the car right now is a big limiting factor to a lot of people. But then there's that whole thing of like if I don't happen to work at a place that has a charge, or if I don't have I just like the
Yeah.
idea that wherever it is you go, whether you're going out to lunch, whether you're going to a mall or go
It'll
see a
be
movie or something, you can just be charging up while you do that, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I think that's coming. I mean, come to California, that's pretty standard, I would say.
Mm,
Tons of parking garages, malls. Like now it's almost in Southern California, if I go to a parking garage, my first thought is where's the EV parking?
yeah,
Um, and actually, I mean, I look for it, but I don't hardly ever use it because my car has so many miles of range. I don't typically need it, and I'm like, I'll just charge it home later, right? But yeah, like it's pretty standard out here, and it'll probably spread throughout the country later on. And yeah, obviously, a place like Texas is ginormous, so
mm,
it'll be harder, I think, to do that. But yeah, I mean, what's funny about the whole thing is there is sort of obviously like in places where like coal is really big or oil and gas and stuff, there is like some pushback on it. But then the energy companies are in favor of it because it means for them more customers, more electricity, more demand, more money. So it is kind of funny. Like there's like the old, I work on the oil field, like I, get that thing out of here. But then there's the guys that run the company that buys the oil saying, hey, more electricity means more oil, means more jobs. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting paradigm, I guess.
Well, so what's next? What are we going to talk about next?
There was some SpaceX stuff going on, wasn't there?
So this I don't have this pulled up anywhere, but the rocket that took off with crew to go to the ISS yesterday had to abort. Did you hear about
Oh,
this?
no.
Yeah, there was an American astronaut and a Russian astronaut. I should really have this up if I'm going to talk about it here.
So this was not a SpaceX rocket. This was
No, no, no. This was Roscosmos. This is Russia's space
the
agency. This is
Russian
what
one.
we have
Yeah.
to fly through right now until we get the Crew Dragon up anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love that they haven't like updated it since the 60s.
well, they've updated it, but it's still the same
It's
basic.
like, well, but hey, I mean, in this case, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I kind of can agree with,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like, yeah, because you're talking about people dying. Like this isn't like a, you know,
You don't want to mess around with that for sure.
right, right.
Here, I'll share the screen.
Okay.
Sure, the screen. I think because there's only two of us, and one of the two of us is not in your normal spot. This is kind of like a three-legged dog with a broken foot. This particular podcast. But yeah, so this took off last night. Well, I'll just read the headline here. Russian Soyuz rocket carrying new U.S.-Russian crew to the International Space Station failed during its ascent Thursday, sending its crew capsule falling back towards Earth in a ballistic re-entry.
Oh man.
Both crew members are in good condition and have left the Soyuz capsule as of 6:10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I guess. They released photographs of them showing that they're. So yeah, there they are. Cool ads, awesome. This is where everybody goes, get an ad blocker. So yeah, it was astronaut Nick Hague. He was the American, and Dmitry Rogozin. So they're still trying to figure out exactly what went wrong. I think I read somewhere that maybe the abort system didn't disconnect. Like they've got the
Yeah.
this is where we need Tim. They've got the
He's gonna
escape
be
system at the
yelling
top,
at his
and it
phone right
didn't
now,
disconnect
listening
the
to
way it's
this.
supposed to. I know, right?
Yeah.
Come on. But anyway, I heard that did not disconnect the way it was supposed to, so they had to abort the whole
Right.
thing and come back down to Earth. But it's this is the second kind of bad news in a row for the Soyuz. They found a little hole in the Soyuz capsule that was connected to the ISS just about a month or so
That
ago.
was connected to the
And
ISS, so it was already up there.
Yeah, so I think at all times, or right now anyway, there's two of them connected, so that the astronauts can
Uh-huh.
escape if they need to. They can jump in
Yep.
the thing and fly away. Um, Not fly
Float
away,
away.
but go back to Earth. And I think one of them, yeah, they found that there was a loss of air pressure, and they found a little two
Oh wow.
millimeter hole in the Soyuz spacecraft. And it became this whole international thing all of a sudden because I guess um, the American and the Russians were like sniping, not the astronauts, but the administrators were sniping at each other, and there was talk of sabotage that maybe somebody that was working on the Soyuz like put like apparently it wasn't like a micrometeorite or anything. It was like a drill bit, like somebody actually drilled through or made some mistake and tried to
Mm.
cover it up and didn't cover it up very well. But they fixed it.
Huh.
They were able to patch it. But for a little while, about a month or so ago, there was a tiny hole in
Look at
the
that.
International
Yeah, I
Space
mean, I would
Station.
imagine even a tiny hole would be pretty noticeable. Or like, why are things happening? Why is this stuff getting sucked over there? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So I don't know when they're going to go back up. I mean, it's fairly important that they get up there and replace the crew that are there because they've been up
Hmm.
there for a while. I don't think they were carrying. I'm sure they had some supplies with them, but I think most of the supplies are done by autonomous
Yeah,
craft like the
right.
Dragon. But so this shows the shimmy. Here's a video of the astronauts from Twitter where they're getting bumped around when they had to
Wow,
abort.
man. That's unreal.
Look how cramped they are in there. Like they can't even look at each other. There's like stuff
Yeah,
between
you
their
can't even
heads.
like peek your eyes over or anything like that.
This has to become a meme, by the way. They got to set this to music.
It looks like that's awesome. Yes. Someone needs to do that that's more talented than we are.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm
what's
glad
important is
they're
they're
okay.
okay. And I mean, you could say that that just kind of shows that the Soyuz is still, got some value to it because they had a problem and it came through and
Still
everybody's
working.
all right. Um, but it is like a couple of different pieces of bad news for the Russians there.
Mm. Well, on the good news side of that, the SpaceX rocket that went out of
Yeah, yeah.
Vandenberg, was it Sunday or Friday?
Mhm.
Did land, right? Went up, did its thing, landed, but they didn't try to catch
Yeah,
the fairing, I heard.
yeah, Tim was all excited about that, and then they didn't even attempt it for some reason. I guess maybe because it was at night. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because that was my like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Because yeah, after seeing the takeoff, I'm like, oh, how the hell are you gonna try to catch that thing at night? You can't even see it. You're out in the middle of the ocean, like miles away from anything. Like
Yeah,
you don't even like besides the people on the boat, you won't even know if you caught it. Like how
right.
is this gonna work? So makes a lot of sense. But yeah, they took off from Vandenberg and landed back down, which was the first time they'd done that on the West Coast. And I think this rocket had been reused before, or this was it had been used once before, I
I
believe.
believe so. Yeah, yeah. This
So
was the
exciting stuff, man.
um,
Yeah, I was bummed I didn't get to see any of the stuff, but some friends from LA were saying that they got to see like the little plume cloud and stuff like that up
yeah.
in the
The
sky.
videos from it were awesome,
Yeah, yeah,
and I saw a picture. I can't pull it up, but there was a picture of there was like a time lapse, not time lapse, a long exposure photo of
yeah,
the rocket taking off and then it coming back and landing, and it literally landed like right next to the launch pad.
yeah,
They've never really
yeah.
done that
It's
before.
it's insane, man. Yeah, it's just a wild thing. I still I need to go see it in person. This
Yeah.
is just one of those things. I have to see this happen in person. And I know through the Tesla referral program, I get to go to see a Falcon Heavy launch,
Oh,
but who knows if and when that'll happen. So next year at some time. But yeah, yeah, it's cool stuff. And for me, I almost wanted to go up there with my son, but it was just too late at night. Because
mm.
I could have just driven up there and probably driven home, but it was like it was going to be too late at night. So maybe next year when he's a little bit older, he'll be able to stay up later. So
Well, um, yeah, they should probably just start doing more around LA at night or at
that's
that
so cool.
dusk time when you get that big show in the sky, and
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
yeah, I love that idea. I love that idea.
And hopefully, well, so actually, I think I heard that they did push back the Dragon launch. Like they're still trying to get it in December, but it's probably going to get pushed back to January.
Yeah.
The one with the crew people on it. the
Oh, right.
crewed Dragon.
Yeah, I thought that was January, right?
Yeah, I think it's January now.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. But I mean, again, with the issues that we're seeing here with the Soviet rockets, it's time to get that puppy off the ground. That one in the
Yeah,
Boeing
like,
Starliner.
are we at a place where we're comfortable? Where, because I feel like that's when things go wrong. Like, maybe SpaceX.
Oh,
I would be very curious to talk to somebody that works there, and is like, "Hey, do you guys just like take this for granted now that this rocket's not gonna like blow up on the way up,
mhm.
or that it'll come back like guaranteed? I mean, they've done it what 35 times in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I lost count.
Like, I don't know if that's yeah. Like, when do you just start taking that for granted of like, nah, it's fine. Like, this is, yeah, we're not gonna have any of those mistakes. We've had them so many times. We've done it so many times now. Like, we're guaranteed to gonna pass that. Something else could go wrong, but
Mhm.
these three things are always going to work. Like, I wonder when you get there.
Hopefully, never. Honestly.
Yeah, hopefully you're always like, no, we got to make sure we got to like,
Yeah.
because I mean, think about commercial airlines or something. Like, when was it that it was like acceptable to take 100 people up on a plane
Hmm.
where it would be comfortable enough and you had a reasonable amount of assurance that people weren't going to die,
Yeah.
and now it's just taken for granted, right? So
Yeah. The fatality rate on airplanes now is like miraculously low. Like
it's crazy.
I
Yeah.
really ought to do a video about this, about how much of just I know the word miracle is a strong word, but like the fact that we have how many thousands of planes in the sky at any given moment with hundreds of people on board, and there was like one death in the last year or something like that, some freaky thing that happened on Southwest. um
Yeah.
it
I
almost
know it's a
never happens
freak
anymore.
thing. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, but it definitely, yeah. So when are we gonna get there with rockets in space where we're like, what? It didn't land? Like,
yeah,
huh? Because right now, yeah, if there's a plane crash, it's like, oh my god, like it's like the whole world is like it's a major headline across the world. You know,
yeah.
rockets right now, I think are still like, we'll see. you know,
Well, I still,
feeling good.
when they land on the drone ship or whatever, the
Yeah.
autonomous ship, my butthole still clenches a bit. Like there's something about landing in water that's doing this, and it's just like, oh, come on, Like when it lands on land, I'm still kind of like, I'm about 90% it's going to land, and if it doesn't, that would be a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
Um, but
But the drone ship in the water, like you're talking with the ocean, yeah, I
yeah,
get it. It's a bit more variables there. So
yeah, but it's a good point. Like, it used to be such a big deal that they were able to pull that off, and now it would be a big deal if they didn't. You know?
exactly, exactly, yeah. So speaking of things that aren't looking so good, the Republicans are
Oh yeah.
introducing a new bill to end the $7,500 federal tax credit for electric cars and tax them more instead. From Senator John Barrasso, a Republican. I'm sure he does not appreciate me saying his name that way. Uh, a Republican from
That's
Wyoming,
Barrasso, son.
Barrasso. I need to go to Wyoming. I hear actually really good things. Uh, so he said the full text of the bill is not available, but the statement is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to terminate the credit for newly qualified plug-in electric drive motor vehicles and to provide a federal highway user fee on alternative fuel vehicles. So
Fun.
Senator Barrasso, screw you. Uh,
In so
and we
many
can move
words,
on.
sir.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting thing. So in California, we have, and somebody will get mad because I'm going to get this wrong. I think it's a Prop 6, maybe, which is a gas tax. And
Mm.
it also, I believe, imposes an electric vehicle fee for road replacements and stuff for anything that's, I think, past 2020 or something like that. I forget what it is, but it's funny because, I don't know his bill. It sounds like it's just trying to kill this credit, which for Tesla owners probably not the biggest deal because by the time this even were to go in, like the credit will be gone anyways, kind of a thing. But it's just a weird thing because in the California bill, it's hiking the gas taxes by like 20% or something insane amount. So your gas car is going to get a lot more expensive. And at the same time, they're taxing electric vehicles, but it's kind of like I'm okay with it. It's one of those things where like I'll pay $100 a year to put pressure on everyone else to go electric. Fine with that, totally fine. Like, and $100 a year, I mean, it's for road repairs, and the way that I understand it set up is it specifically goes into a fund that will work on road repairs, and we have terrible roads in California because we have a stupid amount of people on them. So yeah, it's one of those things where like they say in the article, the full text of this bill, the federal one, isn't available. Don't like the idea, but if it were paired with, and we're going to impose a 40% gas tax nationwide, I'd be like, bring it on. Like, let's do this.
Yeah, so that's always my thing. And you always hear those people that say like, "Oh, as soon as the tax credit goes away, nobody's going to buy electric cars anymore." I don't think that's true at all. That had very little to do with me getting one, but I'm always like, I'm actually kind of fine with them removing any tax credits for EVs as long as they also stop providing subsidies for oil companies. It's like if you like make it an even playing field, which it's not without those tax credits.
Yeah, was it like 80 billion a year in subsidies or something, or is it 8 billion a year in subsidies?
It's a lot. It's probably closer to 80 or 100.
Yeah, it's something like 6.5% of global GDP.
Yeah,
global GDP,
because they're not making enough money. They need.
Well, yeah. Well, and a lot of the way that they do it is they give them access to things without charging them for it, so they don't have to lease the land or whatever, and they think, they'll pay revenue, taxes on the revenue they make or something like that. So I think that there's some like logic to the idea of it, but yeah, I don't think clearly it's messed up. And I haven't seen a study. I've heard people mention this to me, but I would really love to know how much gas would cost in the U.S., in Texas, in Oklahoma, in places that are very, very kind of big on the oil and gas thing. How much would gasoline cost at the pump if all these subsidies went away? Right. Because if it were $6 a gallon, I guarantee you a lot of people would be looking at the economics behind electric cars. And in a lot of parts of the world, that's the case. Exactly, that's why I think you see, in Europe and in Canada and a lot of these places, it is close to $6 a gallon, if not more. They do it's liters over there, right? And different things. But yeah, the US has we're like number 8 cheapest gas in the whole world or something like that. People don't realize it. People complain, right? We complain about it no matter what, but
Now, when I went to Italy for my honeymoon, I think I got a picture of it somewhere. The petrol there was €6 per liter. Which, of course, you have the conversion rate as well, but liters are also smaller than gallons. So it was like, I mean, it would come out to $9, $10, $11 a gallon over here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where, I mean, if people comment on my videos all the time, they're like, you guys complaining about $4 a gallon. I wish it was $4 a gallon. So yeah, I'm with you though. Like if that's the side of the argument that the Senator Barrassos of the world don't want to acknowledge, right? They don't want to acknowledge that the oil and gas has been subsidized for decades now, and they complain about this, in the grand scheme of things, a very small amount that's being federally subsidized. And so they want to do that because it emboldens their side of the argument or their constituents or whatever, but they don't actually want to use the same logic to apply it to themselves. So it's a double-edged standard, right? It's a double standard. Like you just can't, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So be very curious. And then again, this guy has about a month maybe to get this through Congress before, things could change dramatically here. So at that point, this would have nowhere to go.
Well, and according to
I'm not too
this article in Electrek, it says oil and gas is one of the top sectors to donate to Barrasso's campaign. According to Open Secrets, Chevron and Murray Energy are among Barrasso's top donors. I'm sure that has absolutely nothing to do with this decision of his. But no, I'm like, not to get too dirty political or anything, but like the people who talk about the free market so much are the ones that it's not a free market if you have the table tilted. If you got one segment of the, if you got the oil and gas industry getting all these subsidies and stuff, and then you want to tax EVs, that's not a free market. That is a very manipulated market.
Well, yeah, there's really no such thing as a free market, because a free market would mean that there are like no rules, essentially,
True.
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fallacy. Like even not to get too deep on the political theory, but people say democracy about our style of government here in the U.S., which is technically incorrect. We are in a republic, which is
Right.
the type of form of government we officially have. But people don't want to say, that challenges our republic, right? It just isn't, and so we say democracy, but again, pure democracy would be terrible, because that's like, ancient times, like, she's a witch, burn her. Right? Like, we all voted, she's a witch, burn her. That's democracy
Mhm.
for you, right? Whoever voted for whatever, like, that's, there's no foundation in a pure democracy, right? It's like
Yeah.
mob rule. So I think all of these things are kind of that way, where like there has to be some core sensibility to this stuff, and then you can argue about these other cases. So yeah, the regulations that govern the financial markets, yeah, definitely force things into a specific way, or way of operating, to try to ensure stability. Otherwise, if we had a truly free market, nothing would ever be off the table, right? Child
Mhm.
labor, completely exploiting the environment. I mean, who knows,
And not to
Uh,
mention, without some basic regulations, you would basically wind up with 1 or 2 companies running everything, which is kind of what we're headed
right.
toward right now. But,
Anti-competitive, anti-monopoly, like,
yeah.
yeah, these things are all, I think, generally considered good. So the whole notion of a free market is a complete fallacy. Like, you need some rules and regulations. Otherwise, it's just chaos. No one would want that,
It's like
right?
traffic. If you don't have some kind of, framework for people to stick by, you just wind up with people smashing into each other everywhere.
Yeah, if you want to experience that, come to San Diego. We'll go down to Tijuana, and I'll show you what that's
Where the
like.
traffic signs are a suggestion, really.
I don't even know if there are traffic signs, really. I've missed exits so many times because there's no, there's literally like, oh, here's a roundabout, and there's like 6 roads going out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, Google's like, yeah, take the third right. Like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
Like, there is an official name, but I don't think there's a sign anywhere that says any of this stuff. So, uh,
No, it makes me, I was a big Parks and Rec fan. I guess I still am, the TV show. And in the last season, which was it was set in 2017, but at the time that they did it, that was in the future. So there were all these like allusions to weird things that happened in the future, and all the phones were transparent, and you could ride them like a skateboard
yes.
and stuff. And of course now it's like, okay, that was last year. But now there was a specific episode where they ran these fake commercials, and one of them was for a company called Chipotle, Verizon, Chipotle, Exxon, because they had all merged together. And it said at the end of the commercial, it said, proud to be one of America's 5 companies.
Yes. Yes.
That always
It's like
cracked me
it's
up.
like Demolition Man, where like Taco Bell is the only
Yeah.
income business.
What restaurants are Taco Bell? I want to say something too. Every time, I know we've talked about this before. Um, Whenever a traditional car maker comes out with an EV, they always like make it futuristic looking, and
Oh,
there's neon lights and there's all this crazy stuff. It's like they throw their entire design language out the window and
uh
create the ugliest thing they can possibly come up with. And I'm always like, do you think you're in Demolition Man? Because they
huh.
all look like they're in Demolition Man.
Yep. Yep. I get that. That's part of my Dear Tesla Killers video,
Yeah.
was like, what? What are you guys doing? BMW? The hell is this bubble eye shell, or i3 turtle
Yeah.
shell looking thing? What the hell? Like, you clearly know how to make good cars. Like, what were you like?
Mhm.
Were you drunk? What happened? Why
Yeah.
why did this happen? Like, this is an abomination.
Because
You know?
BMWs are beautiful cars, and then their EVs are these like. I always said the i3 looked like a BMW having an allergy attack, just
Yeah.
swollen and weird and lumpy.
Mm. Yeah, and then even their new iVision concept is like, weird futuristic stuff. And then Mercedes, I think Mercedes, kind of did well with their SUV. They're probably the only ones that haven't made a weird looking one to my knowledge. I think they had the A class or something, which was an electric version, but
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I guess
everyone
the
else, yeah,
iPace
it's
isn't
a weird
too weird
idea.
looking.
The iPace?
It's not too out there, is it?
No, the iPace is great. Yeah, I feel like companies are now starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like first gen EVs were a hey, we're doing it. Yeah, we're cool. You know,
Uh,
we're hanging with these guys. We're doing EVs, but really didn't give a shit. And then now it's like, oh crap, Tesla just outsold Mercedes and BMW. I saw. Did you see the September numbers?
yeah, yeah.
I
You
have.
did a video about it.
Well, no, that was August.
Oh,
September, the Model 3 was and I think this is estimated. I don't know if the official numbers are yet, but it was the fourth most popular selling car in the United States.
car.
Fourth
Yeah.
car. It was above, I believe, the Honda Civic.
Hmm.
It's like it's outselling a Honda Civic. That is mind blowing. That a
Yeah.
$60,000 or $49,000 electric car. I mean, it's just so. I think now these guys just have to pay attention. They
Yeah.
can't ignore this notion. And if you make these goofy, dumb looking things, and Tesla's making these beautiful, in by comparison, normal looking
Right. Yeah.
things, which one are you going to go with? You know, and then people get into the whole patriotism thing. It's like, well, you have a BMW, which by the way is mostly made in America, but that's a German company versus Tesla is an American company, all made in
Mhm.
America. So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I'm really amazed that they don't talk about that more.
It's the most American car brand. Um,
Yeah.
but that's kind of, I mean, that's true, that's a fact, but it is a little bit skewing it right now, because when you consider GM and these other ones, they are multinational companies with plants all over the world. So you're like, okay, so maybe one day Tesla will probably, like, when their China plant comes online, it's like, okay, well, cool,
Right.
like you're no longer. But as of now, there is no company besides Tesla that has 100% of their general assembly in the United States. They are, by far the most American car company. I
Yeah.
don't think people think about that really, but it's true. And you can look up the
How many
ALA
people do they
reports and
employ
stuff.
now? Is it like
What's
15, 20,000 or something like that?
Say it again?
How many people do they employ?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's like upwards of 30 or more.
Wow.
The factory, man, factory workers there's a lot of them. It's also something people don't understand is like, when you talk, like I was up in Silicon Valley recently interviewing some friends, and we were talking about like they were bummed. They're like, "How come we didn't get best place to work last year?" And like, "Oh, well, you have to pay Glassdoor. You kind of have to stroke their ego. You're gonna have to do this thing," and and I was thinking about it, like Tesla will never get best place to work, and the reason is because at Lyft and Google and Facebook and these other places, yeah, they're all highly skilled tech workers with, like very opulent kind of surroundings and benefits. But Tesla has like blue collar people wrenching on manufacturing equipment every day. Like it's just a different,
Yeah.
even if you provided food and all these things, it wouldn't fit right. So it's kind of an interesting animal, but
You get off the
yeah.
line and go play ping pong for a little bit and then go back.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, like you're like dirty, and it's like just doesn't really add. It's like super loud in there, machines banging on
Yeah.
things and welding, and you're just like, yeah, it's a different animal altogether. So
So it's kind of funny because they are a tech company. We talk about that a lot, but they're also a manufacturing company.
right,
So they're kind of like if Apple included their Chinese workers.
right. If they
In there.
included, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you would see the overall employee satisfaction drop by like an order of magnitude overnight, right? When you have
Yeah.
people that have to actually work, right? So,
Yeah.
but speaking of Tesla's future, they need some new people on the board apparently, and
Oh,
there's a rumor about James Murdoch, but then Elon says no. So what do we think about this? James Murdoch, Financial Times says James Murdoch is in line for Tesla chair. Musk replies, incorrect. That's about the best headline. I'm surprised it was like Elon Musk destroys James Murdoch's hopes of ever becoming the chair or something like.
I know, right? Or I just see like a gif of Trump in the debates.
Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong.
So James Murdoch, who is he? Tell me who he is, Joe.
Well, he's Rupert Murdoch's
Okay, did
son,
not
for
know
one
that.
thing. Rupert Murdoch, the CEO of News Corp, Fox News, 20th
Yep.
Century Fox, that whole thing. So he has no manufacturing experience. He's been on lots of boards, but he's never been the head of a board that does manufacturing. Now, I don't know. I mean, does that matter if his only job is to look
I
out for
don't
the
think so.
shareholders? Does that?
Because he's not going to get involved
I
in
mean,
running the company. So yeah, I don't think it
mm.
matters. I do love the idea.
I
Yeah.
think he's already. Sorry, is he on the board already? And they're going to promote him to chairman, or is he not? Is he
That's a good
totally an
question. I'm not
outsider?
quite sure. At this point, I understood that the board was basically.
Oh, it says Murdoch, already
Oh,
an
okay.
independent director of Tesla, has signaled
Yeah,
he wants the
so
job. I
the
don't know
way
what
I
that
understand
means.
that this works is it's the parliamentary versus the presidential government style, right? So that the board elects one of their own members to be chairman versus CEO gets hired from the outside. Typically, they don't like, I mean, they can get promoted, but not often. It's like, hey, we're all going to vote for like Joe to become the CEO. It's like, no, somebody applies and it can be, an open market. But the board typically, from my understanding, is they promote or they elect one of the people to be the chairman from within their own group. So that would make sense.
Mm. Okay. Well, I mean, so that's the rumor, and
But
Elon
kind of
says no.
that's
So I guess
funny.
we'll see
Like,
what
why
happens.
does Elon even care about correcting something like that? Why? Why? He pays
We did
more
it with a
attention to
tweet,
comments
so
than I do. And I probably should pay far more attention than he does. It's weird.
well, it's funny because last week
Yeah.
my video was on space junk and the problem with us cluttering up space and Kessler syndrome, making it impossible to go up, possibly. And I want to say 3 or 4 different people that like tweeted that to Elon and were like, Elon, you're the only person that can fix this, please. And I was kind of like,
It's not like how you want to get in contact with Elon.
yeah. He did not
Thanks,
respond to any of
guys.
those or call
Yeah.
me a pedophile. So I guess that's good.
I would love if he called me a pedophile. That would be fantastic. I
You'd
I don't
frame
know
it and put it on your
why.
wall.
Oh my god. I don't know why, but people it's funny. People will be really mad and write real nasty comments to me on YouTube, and I love them all. But none of these news outlets will write a hit piece on me. I feel like left out, sort of, in a way.
You'll get there.
One
Keep
day
on
I'll make
dreaming.
it. Yeah.
Don't stop believing.
One day Jalopnik will be like, idiot YouTuber sells Roadster for $10 or something,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You got to do something really crazy. I
I
mean,
feel like
really crazy.
I've been trying. I've been trying to piss off all the mainstream media for years now, and it just doesn't work. They just uh, it's like they know that by them writing a hit piece on me, it gives me validation, and
Mm.
and it makes me feel like yes, which probably a lot of other people, because to me it's all a joke, right? Like the mainstream media is like completely irrelevant in today's world. I feel so like the more hype I would ever get out of that, I would totally love it. I would totally love for Jim Cramer or somebody to be like, this guy's a freaking moron, and like throwing shit at the screen. Like that would be amazing to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just sadistic in that way, or is it masochistic, or whatever the other one is.
It's funny. Like I am not a what's the word I'm looking for? A brain fart. A person who gets off on people being mad at me,
Oh,
instigator, or
really?
whatever.
Yeah.
But there are some people out there that like. I guess that makes you a troll, basically, if you're just like egging people on and trying to get people to talk shit about you.
Well, there's the whole outrage marketing thing.
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah,
what you're talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Like, who's the guy? Faraz Khan. I forget who he is, but he's just like he's kind of like a conspiracy theorist guy, but he does these videos that like piss off people so bad, and they just hate him. But that's like his brand. That's what he does. Or like a Keemstar is another guy
Mm.
where he just goes on these epic rants of just like tearing people down and talking so much shit to him, and it's like, yeah, everyone just hates him, you know. But
Yeah.
he gets a ton of attention for it, and not everyone actually hates him, you know. So I just feel like a little bit like Electrek has just been like, I don't know if you've seen, but there's like a full on assault from like certain auto like news outlets or whatever. I don't know what to categorize them as. Like there was this whole giant hit piece about how Electrek is some big fanboy fraud web news site and whatever. And I mean, I look at it and it's like, but who gives a shit? Like, it's useful. Like, I'm a fan. Yes.
Mm.
There's no such thing as non biased or objective. It just doesn't exist unless you're reading like stats, unless you're just reading numbers.
Yeah.
The minute even somebody shows you a chart, they could be biasing you.
Yeah.
So it's a weird world, and to me, the mainstream media is just such a joke. That's why I would love the idea of them like coming after me, because I literally would not care at all. It would be, I mean, I would get more attention, and it'd be funny to me, you
Yeah.
know. Like when they came after PewDiePie with that whole giant hit piece, it turned out to be one of the greatest things for his career.
Oh, was that with the Nazi thing when he said some Nazi
Yeah,
comment or?
right. But if you go back and look at it, and not to go down this rabbit hole of YouTube stuff, drama, but and he did an amazing video responding to it.
Yeah.
Uh, they went through 6 months of his videos and pieced together 2 minutes of jokes that were taken completely out of context and put together in a way to make him look like a Nazi sympathizer. And then Maker, is it Maker Studios or whoever, like Disney essentially,
Mhm.
who has like 15 YouTubers on their roster, a tiny amount, and obviously they're all massive creators, drops him. And so then it's actually a net positive for him, because now Maker Studios is not taking any money of his. He gets all the ad
Mhm.
revenue and all the sponsor deals and all the stuff and all the whatever himself. And then he posts a video reply explaining the whole thing, and when you look at it, it was a complete bullshit hit piece that was all like dramatically like drawn up to try to paint him as this bad guy, but he's totally not.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you go, okay, is the Wall Street Journal making a play here to try to gain credibility themselves, which they feel that they're in this ivory tower hierarchical structure of how the world is supposed to work, right? Like the patriarchy view, and they're the Wall Street Journal, so they're up here.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats, I don't even know what they get, like 10 million readers a month or something like that. Like if PewDiePie had 10 million unique viewers a month, that would be like his worst month in 5 years. It would be like a travesty, right?
Mm.
The guy, has 67 million followers on
Yeah.
just YouTube. And so you look at it, go, actually, I think Wall Street Journal is reaching here because, if I wrote an attack piece on Trump and he responded, now I'm famous and I'm in the light too. I think so. So you kind of look at it, like, was the Wall Street Journal trying to like elevate their own stature by attacking him and making up this shit,
Mm.
or are they trying to like truly? Because when you looked at the real evidence, it was there was like no way you could come out of that saying, oh well, he is a Nazi. Like there's zero ways you could really spin that to say he truly was what they were claiming he was. So it's one of those things. Like I think the Wall Street Journal, or the mainstream media, Wall Street Journal being included, are like newspapers. They are
Yeah.
drowning.
I can
Um,
say from experience, newspapers are struggling to adopt to the new digital world, and
yeah,
they might turn to tactics like that to do it.
I would not be shocked. I would not be
Yeah.
surprised if that's part of their whole strategy. So
So, sort of on that, and I know we're kind of running out of time, and you got a talk to give and everything. Maybe we can talk about this more in a future episode. But we talked offline about the Pravda thing on
uh huh,
Clean Technica.
yeah,
Um, what they're basically doing is they are, so right now I'm just going to bring it up, so anybody who wants to, we can put a link and you can go check it out and determine for yourselves, and we can take a deeper dive later. But they're basically trying to compile the headlines around Tesla and determine which one or how many of them are negative, how many of them are neutral, how many of them are positive, and just show you the overwhelming number of negative versus positive headlines that are going on. And I know that your, I don't want to say issue, but I guess your concern with it is like how do they determine what's positive, what's negative? Like it's kind of hard to separate any kind of personal bias from that. Um, and I don't know the answer to that. And maybe that's something that we could find out. But I on a certain level, I like the idea of somebody out there kind of being an arbiter of at least just compiling this stuff and getting, creating visuals that you can kind of see how lopsided things can be. Um, and maybe eventually it could be algorithmically based and you could get a better picture of it with not just Tesla, but other things. But I mean, I've expressed my concern over and over again about the media landscape right now, how it's all clickbait, how it's all sensationalism. And on a certain level, it's always been there, but we don't have any standard bearers anymore. We used to have our Edward R. Murrows and our Walter Cronkites so we could all kind of agree we're not total shills, and now it's just, even like you said, even the Wall Street Journal, I mean, fairly respected, newspaper is now just, resorting to tactics like that just to get views.
Attacking a YouTuber.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think it's a good thing to compile and keep an eye on. So
yeah, and
I thought that their project was interesting anyway.
yeah, and I've had actually on Twitter we had a good kind of deep dive into that because I'm very interested in what they're doing, and I do want to take it to kind of the next level. So what they're doing now is all manual. They are collecting these headlines manually from, I think they have like a strategy of certain um, news providers, and then they're looking at the titles alone, and they're putting in their opinion on if they're positive, negative, or neutral. So there's kind of a couple things and I actually have a friend who's a really great data scientist, and we're looking at coming up with an algorithm to do this because it's been done over and over. So stay tuned. I would like to do a deeper dive here, but the challenges I see with what they have now, and again, it's kind of like the autopilot data stuff that came out. Like this is a positive step. I am fully supportive. I think this is like great, and we need to do it more. But the limitations, I'll say, of the current analysis and study is that it's based on titles alone, and titles change for A/B testing reasons. So when you analyze it once, it may be different later, and they may do that numerous times. And titles, as we all know, are mainly designed to get you to click and view into the article, in which case the article may have a completely different sentiment. So, for example, like I did a video called "Don't Buy a Tesla," and
Yeah.
when you clicked into it, the whole point was looking at the economics of owning one and whether or not you made enough money to truly afford it. Right. So you could look at the title and say, it's negative. But then when you look at the substance of the article, you could see, this is actually like informative, like let's say neutral. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Now, I would make a quick argument though that
sure.
there are studies out there that show that only like 20% of people on social media, especially like Facebook, actually click into the article. And sometimes people share these things without actually reading them. And so like
100%.
just reading a negative headline is enough to kind of implant a seed.
100%. 100%. And in that same vein, negativity sells much more than positivity.
Right. That's why they do it. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think like there's more to this than just like, hey, I'm pissed at Tesla, I'm gonna write a mean article about them. Like I think that if that's like the picture they're painting, then that's dumbing it down too much, I would say. Like in media there, and you've worked in it far longer, been longer than I have, like there is so much actual nuance and kind of art to it, and then strategy and sophistication and data science, and there's like all these things that actually play into what we get and see. And so so yeah, the title versus the article itself, you'll have discrepancies there. So that's one challenge. The title changing frequently, which people, if they don't understand this, it totally happens. Literally everybody does it. So that's a thing. Then also there's the moment in time. So to truly understand, so if you look at the hype cycle of new technology, we are like probably in the kind of trough of delusionment, as they call it, right? The bottom of the cycle right now, where people are just angry and pissed, or we may not even be at the bottom. We may be on the way down. But then eventually you kind of come to this, I forget what they call it, like enlightenment or something, where you're like, oh, like a lot of people
Nirvana.
that, yeah, well, it's just one of those things where, people that hate Teslas but have never actually ridden in one. It's like,
Mhm.
go ride in one and then tell me you hate them, right?
Right.
Because you can't do that. Like, it's objectively impossible to do that. So, there's this natural hype cycle to technology. So they're starting the study now. So besides other challenges I already mentioned, we need to actually go back and maybe look back to 2012 for this. And so, yeah, collecting that data and automating the analysis of that is something I'm kind of working on with some friends right now. But
Mm.
yeah, I love, like, again, it's positive. I think we should do this. I'm with you. But I think we need to do it in a way that is more bulletproof, I guess. Right. So it's not a person, because a person is biased no matter what they say. And it's an objective measure, that we can like test.
Mhm.
And also it gets the full piece of content, not just one bit of it. And then we also look across the longitudinal side of it, to the study of, like, what was it like 5 years ago? Because generally, like, leading up to, like, an Elon, just do Elon Musk alone. A few years ago, he was the world's savior. Everyone is
Right.
looking at him as, like, God, like, if he could only run for president, it'd be
He lived
amazing.
long enough to see himself become
Everyone,
the victim or the
right,
villain.
yeah, the villain, yeah. So, and I remember, like, Stephen Colbert asking him, "So, are you a superhero or a
Mhm.
supervillain?" Right? Um, and then fast forward to some of his behavior recently, and generally, I think objectively, the world has a much different view of him.
Yeah.
Um, so it's one of those things, like, so the hype cycle of all these things, and so, like, if all you did was start looking at headlines about Elon today, you would assume that everyone hates him. But if you went back 5 years, you would have a different perspective, right? You'd be able to kind of trend that over time. So I love what they're doing. I think we need to do it just kind of in a more bulletproof way and across a broader section of time, to get the full
Yeah.
picture. But I would not be shocked at all if essentially what they're saying, what they're basically presuming with their analysis now, is the actual answer after we do that study. But for that study to be valid, there's just some things we have to do to kind of make sure it's right.
Yeah. Well, you're the data guy, so I wanted to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, exactly, and yeah, so and thankfully, things like sentiment analysis have been done to death, and so we don't have to invent anything. We just have to actually write the code and set it up. Like, where do you get the news from? Okay, well, you have RSS feeds, and okay, which, like every news agency, like Fox is a good example, right? Fox probably has like 300 like properties, like web properties
Right.
with different news, and among them are thousands of reporters, and potentially the same article gets reshared across multiple ones. Like, so just even how you get the data could skew your results. So
Yeah.
that's, the challenge. There's like a lot of challenges in just like figuring that out. There's not like a database of every news story ever written, and we can just go like run a simple query on it. Like, there's more to it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I love the idea of doing this. I think in the broader perspective as well, not just Tesla, but imagine if you had a search engine and you just punched it in, whatever, Chevy, or Jim Chanos, or whatever, PewDiePie, and you could see these trends over time. I think that'd be a really cool,
Yeah.
valuable asset for us as a society.
I agree. Well, we have kind of gone long without Tim here.
We'll put the title again. Ben rambles on forever. We'll just.
Yeah. We don't have Tim here to interrupt you. I was brought up not to interrupt people, so you
Oh,
could just talk for 2 hours, and I'd be sitting here like,
unlike Gary Vee, who I was here at Vid Summit yesterday, he talks about that. He was like, "Yeah, I interrupt people all the time. It's like I'm terrible." He's got
yeah.
a lot to say.
If I don't get it out now, I'll explode. Well,
Right.
what do you have coming up?
Yeah.
Or anything?
So I just launched my online course for people that want to become data
Ooh.
scientists. So we're right in the middle of that. That's super exciting. And then, but because I've officially launched now and I did all the work the previous weeks, I should be able to get back to do more YouTube videos soon. So still doing the live shows on Mondays, but now I had to be able to add in another video
Cool.
every week. So excited about that.
Yeah, it's so hard to squeeze something in when you've got this full schedule of videos coming out.
We all are 100% busy 100% of the time, even
Mhm.
if you're just sitting around playing video games or doing whatever. So in order to add something, you got to take something away. That's the
Yeah.
way I look at it. So for me, that was that extra video every week, and took that away and to focus on the other thing. And now I can kind of bring it back. So
Yeah. Cool.
what about you?
Monday's video, I believe, is going to be on future foods, like what kind of foods we can eat in the future that are more sustainable and won't destroy everything quite so fast.
Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots. That's the
Dippin'
answer.
Dots. It is the food of the future. It's the ice cream of the future that I only remember from the past. I don't see it anymore.
They don't see. I think I
We
saw it
already
at an
lived through the
airport
future, man. It's over. We're like post future now.
recently. This is the end of the end, not the end of the beginning.
Let's wrap this up, and we'll have Tim with us next week, and he can tell us all about Hobbit Town and his
Yes.
experiences down there. And I guess people can find us at ourludicrousfuture.com. I'm on YouTube at Answers with Joe. Ben's on YouTube at Teslanomics. And any last words?
We will see you in our ludicrous future.
Nice.